So let's start looking at the slider. The first question is, oh yeah, this one has been bothering me too. The skills in the Claude web and desktop app and the skills in Claude code, um, and they're not the same. They're not in sync. And it is a bit frustrating, especially now that this Claude Cowork became available as a nice option, a little bit experimental still, but kind of an extension of the desktop option of Claude that can run locally. But the skills, it doesn't read locally. So there are two different ways to work with skills, depending on which version of Claude you are working with. If you are working with the sorry, just letting more people. If you're working with the web version or with the desktop version, which is really just a portal to the web version of Claude, then the skills need to be uploaded in zip files to the settings of Claude. Whereas if you're working with Claude Code, or indeed with many of the other coding agents right now, the skills can be read from directories in your local setup. For example, in skills or other agents, sometimes there are other locations. And yeah, this is really frustrating. It's kind of funny. The other day I was chatting with someone from Anthropic. They contacted me for some reason for sort of their research, and they said, "Hey, what can we do to make it better?" And the first thing I told them is, make it pick up the skills locally, because I'd like to use the web version or the desktop version of Claude because it has projects where I keep a lot of my sort of knowledge base. But when I do that, I have to upload the skills manually. So yeah, I don't have any inside information around anything like this. It sounded to me from what he said, I wasn't the first one to mention that. Hopefully that's something they're working on. I have a feeling that, like all of us, they are coping with very rapid change, and they released scales first as an experimental thing. It spread like wildfire. And they're also figuring out what is the best setup that kind of gives you all the options. My guess is that what they call Claude Cowork will effectively become the new desktop version, and that they'll use that to arrange things maybe in a way that gives you, on the one hand, enough power, on the other hand, is also friendly to less technical users. By the way, one solution that I found for myself, I can actually show you. Let me share my screen. It is this one. Can you see my screen now? Yes. So I created for myself this funny facility with GitHub Actions, which are the scripts running in GitHub that take all my local skills, which I commit to a repository, and they create like zip files from it, so that if I want to upload them into Claude, I can easily download them for me. I can share the action if people are interested. That's the best solution I've found so far. So I have a lot of skills that I've installed locally, and I'm not using most of them in the web or desktop version of Claude, but when I do, I have easy access to it. Other option is to use, there are all kind of different agents you can use. One of them, which we will look at shortly, in OpenCode, which also has a very nice desktop version and with Claude skills locally. And beyond that, I would say if you're comfortable using your Claude Code or OpenCode or any of the other local agents, they're probably still the more flexible option you have right now until Anthropic and the entire industry figure out what it is they want to do about local agents. Any other thoughts around that, or experiences people have, solutions, creative solutions you found to this problem? And if not, let's move on. We have more questions. That's great. And remember that you can put new ones in the Slido if you'd like, or just unmute yourself and ask.
Sorry,
Well,
one real quick before we move on. That
sure.
repo you showed, that is not public, correct?
No, that's my private inventory of skills. But if you'd like, I'm happy to share it in the GitHub action. But this is pretty generic. I can later on put it in a gist or something and share with you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. So, scene devs with environments for agentic code work, custom skills, and workflows. Have you something similar interested in your approach? So, I'm not sure I completely understand the question, like what specifically you like to know. So, yes, I use Claude as well as some OpenCode and Visual Studio Code and other options. I do use quite a lot of skills. So here you just got a glimpse of these are all skills I actually have installed. There are quite a lot. Things like Agent Browser, which I really like, is the new browser from Vercel for automating browser work. And some of the generic things like Artifacts Builder and Canvas Design that came from Anthropic. I have some custom ones that I did. I don't know if I use to anyone else. So, for example, I'm a bit of a flashcard memorization nut, and I use Anki, which is the software for doing it. And I have a skill for managing my flashcard collection. So, just stuff I do locally, nothing to do with coding and the generator for flashcards. So I have quite a lot of skills and I make heavy use of them. Other than that, I don't have anything super fancy locally. I usually just create a plan and then code with it. And a lot of my more serious coding work on larger projects I actually do not so much locally, but in remote agents like the GitHub Copilot hosted agent or Cloud Code Web or Codex sometimes. Does this answer a little bit? Is this in the direction? Is there anything more specific? Whoever asked this wants to know, or anyone wants to know?
I just have a quick question about agent browser. I think, like, by default, Claude does have access to a Chromium web agent.
Yes. Oh, Claude has access to Chrome through Claude in Chrome that works only in Claude, which is nice. I sometimes use Claude, but I also use other agents. Also, I find that the Code Chrome functionality is very good for doing browser automation. Like if I want to go somewhere and grab all the links for me so that I can do something or operate. Sometimes I use it to like post things on social media or all kind of silly things like this. But it's very slow, like really, really slow in its current version. And when I need to do things like testing, if let's say I'm developing something that has a web interface and I need to have testing, it is really too slow for me. And I also don't need to see the browser. I just need it to work in the background and complete the tests. And the new agent browser from Vercel is fantastic for it. Very lightweight, very fast. So I'm using both, but primarily the Claude and Chrome facility for my own sort of personal automation, and agent browser for automating tests and things that are more structured.
Got it. Thanks for.
All right, Kunal, I think you have your
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I don't want to derail the agenda for today, but at some point, if we have time today, that'd be awesome. Would love to see perhaps you walk through some of those skills and use them, like what the most common workflows are for you that these skills have been helping you with. I don't know. That's just me, but I think that would be super interesting.
Sure, I can tell maybe another thing if there's anything specific that's interesting to you, because obviously I do different things, but happy to do that. And in fact, since we'll be looking at OpenCode and it also hosts skills, it will give us an opportunity to try some of that.
Awesome. Excited.
All right. Anything else on this topic that I didn't manage to cover or you have some thoughts on? No, so let's move on. Oh, that's interesting. So any practical takes on these two emerging patterns? The first is the recursive language models paper, and the other one is database-backed file systems for agents like LangChain or TorsoDB now. Well, the first one is definitely more practical implications because it's a fresh research paper. So it's just research papers usually take, even in this very fast world of AI, usually takes like at least a year to translate into something more practical. It's an interesting paper. I don't know if it's very readable, so you can read it or feed it to an LLM and ask for help with a summary. It's very readable. It's interesting. It's nothing shocking. You haven't seen things like this. So what they do, to put it very, very simple terms, is they figure out a sort of a consistent, repeatable way to deal with large amount of input, and it doesn't fit into the context window of an LLM, right? So LLM, they have a limited context window. It's many of the better ones now are something like 200,000 tokens, but effectively it's usually maybe half that. And this is sometimes considered a challenge as big. And if you want to grow the context window, it also has very high costs and so far hasn't performed very well. The recursive LM's paper gives the language model a tool that allows it to recursively sort of read and compress and reduce the size of the input. And they achieved really impressive results in terms of being able to, let's say, process, understand, pay attention to a large amount of text. It's not clear how practical it is. First of all, it is slow because it needs to recursively iterate over the text many times. So that's a consideration. Whereas paying attention to the context window is basically instantaneous after you encode the context window. It uses similar things like when if you use projects in Claude or ChatGPT, it kind of does something similar, right? It doesn't pay attention to the entire content of the project at once. It uses a tool to go and read things from the different files and chunks in the project. And it works quite well. It is indeed a little bit slower. And it doesn't use this recursive method. Usually it does a single pass, but a lot of it is what fits under the category of RAG, retrieval augmented generation. This particular setup looks promising. It's not clear if it will have practical implications, if only because of the speed limitation. We usually don't want to wait very long for the results. As for database-backed file systems for agents, I don't know, I find it a bit funny, but obviously file systems are databases, right? They're just branded as file systems and not as databases. What is meant, particularly in these experiments now from TorsoDB and from LangChain, is using an actual database like SQLite or something like this. It's fine. It works. It doesn't really matter where you read and where you write to. The state you have. It's not really relevant for small and simple systems like the ones we run locally and like we use like coding agent or something like this. it could be relevant for very large scale systems if you can work more efficiently. So I think I would say not relevant unless you're building a really scaled system, then it's worth looking whether that improves performance and scalability. Does this answer the question more or less? Any other thoughts on that? Well, that's okay then. Let's move on. And there's a question from David. When comparing models, for example, for code generation, can you recommend any type of semi-objective metrics for measuring their expected performance? I know really there's two places I keep going to or getting a good idea. One of them is LM Arena, and if you know it, you can really. LM Arena has a really nice setup. What is cool about it is that it is not based on benchmarks that are sort of frozen, but it is based on voting by users who try the different models. So basically, you yourself can go to the website and submit a prompt and get two results side by side, and you'll have to choose which one is better. I think that's the most reliable because the problem with benchmarks is that obviously by now everyone, all the labs, they're all optimizing for these benchmarks. And so I think this is the closest, if I'm kind of considering my own intuition from after I work with models for a while, this is a really good guide. Note that it is heavily biased towards human preference. What I mean by that is if there is a very complex setup you need for testing something, and there is something simpler that people usually would do on the website, and something simpler may be biased. You could, for example, try to explain the difference here. So if you see here, Claude.bot thinking is here above GPT 5.2 high. There are many benchmarks that would tell you that GPT 5.2 high is actually better for more complex work, but probably the complex work will not be what users test on the website. Still, the guide, none of this will be a surprise to you, right? Like if you work with the different models, you kind of know that yes, Claude 4.5 and GPT 5.2 are kind of at the top, and the Gemini 3 models are near, and there are some open ones trailing. And they have different leaderboards for text generation, for code generation, for some more specialized queries. I think that's actually the best place to look right now. That's where I'll go. Another one I go to often is artificial analysis. This is based on benchmarks, but at least they do a good job of running the benchmarks independently and not relying on the results published by the different model makers. And those are many things. I here, for example, intelligence GPT 5.2 is a little bit about Locus because they use these more thorough tests, and they'll test on you can compare speed or cost route to performance, looking at things like open models versus closed models and different kinds of benchmarks. So it's a very good, reliable source. The only thing I will say is, even though they run the tests independently, the benchmarks are still known to the companies creating the models, and rest assured they are optimizing for these benchmarks. So these are, I think, the best sources right now to take a glance, get an idea of what you're going to get from a model. It's no substitute for A, just trying the model yourself on different things and developing an intuition. And B, if it is for a bigger project, also running evals. So reviewing your own tests that are specific to your task and trying them on different models and scoring. But this is what I do. Usually I'll go first to LM Arena and maybe then to artificial analysis and spend very long time looking at his numbers and then move to trying things myself. Any other thoughts? What do other people do or think, or how do you get like at a glance impression of model performance? Hopefully, you will be now using memory now. I think it's the best. Let's move on. As question from Denise, but Clawd.bot, yes, it's the superstar of the week on Twitter and the other forums. And Peter, I really like, and the most of them, and any of you got to see, I hosted him for a live coding session a few months ago. It was dizzying. I mean, this guy is amazing. He's doing so much and so fast. Look, it's a very nice experiment. I don't really know what it's good for. I see a lot of people getting excited about installing it. I don't know if installing something is the most exciting activity you can have. The interesting thing is how I'm also following kind of the social media, and I've seen a lot of people saying that they installed it, but I haven't read from anyone what they did with it that was good or useful. And so I'm kind of wondering what is it good for? Like, people that can connect to your calendar. I already have a calendar. I think it's a super interesting experiment. And what is it? It's kind of about living in the future, right? We all start to get glimpses of what it's like to have these long-running agents that can run freely and do things. We're not there yet in terms of infrastructure and products that are fit for normal people who are not enthusiasts experimenting. But it's cool that this experiment is happening.
People get local full privileges on the machine.
All right, I think, yeah, let's mute. And Denise, yes.
Eleanor, I was trying to install it and trying to experiment from it. But the first thought came to my mind is, how does that context window, the common villain, be tamed with such sort of long-running agent? What is the use cases, or I would say pattern Patrick has employed that it's not having a context route or bleeding context in any given task when you talk to it? So I'm just curious about that. Any thoughts? It's fine. You will send them.
Yeah, so I don't know the specifics of the implementation, but obviously in the long-running agents, you can't keep growing the context window because it's limited, and so you persist some of it to disk in some way. It's a bit related to our thoughts earlier about the recursive LLM. So there are many different techniques, from just saving a text file and saying, okay, this is what happened until now, or using a database and keeping some information there. I know that some people install like a memory with semantic set. They're all valid, but no, you're not going to be able to keep everything in the context window. It is very quickly going to fail. And so what you want is to iteratively push some of the information that the agent think is relevant to something persistent, like a memory facility or a text file or a database or whatnot, and read it on demand. All right, well, let's move on. And David, lastly, I saw your comments on browser extension. How can agents check the work for extensions? QA field manual, and the agent eagerly claims false success. The truth is, I don't have a really good answer. I'm pretty sure there are ways to automate the testing of extensions, because surely that's what serious professional developers of extensions do. I don't have too much experience with that. I mean, most of the extensions I built, or not even extensions, I usually build these user scripts. It's pretty easy to just copy and paste and debug in 2 or 3 steps until it works. But I would say if you are planning to do like serious professional development of extensions, it's probably worth researching what tooling there is in, the Chrome ecosystem, as well as the others, Firefox and Safari and so on, for automating the test. I'm absolutely sure there is something.
Thanks for the answer, Eleanor. Just to clarify a little bit more, if I'm having the agent build something that's going to be running on a local script, it can actually run that local script in my terminal and see the output and then say, oh, I didn't do it right. And I'm wondering, is there a way to give with an extension, I have to say, well, when I ran the extension in the browser, it didn't give the correct result on this particular web page. Is there a way to give the extension access to what I would be having as a user experience in my browser, where it can see my browser console, it can see the browser DOM, and it can check its results that are happening inside the browser itself somehow?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know how it's done with extensions. As I said, I'm sure there is something, I just don't know. With user scripts, you can, you use like Chrome DevTools or Playwright or any of these things that automate the browser, and the agent will happily inject the script into the open page, look at the console, see if there are errors, iterate. Yeah, that's very easy to do. You just have to ask.
Okay.
Because basically a user script is just a bunch of JavaScript that's injected into the page. So any browser automation like Playwright or Chrome DevTools can do that without difficulty. And usually, if the agent didn't suggest it itself, you can just ask for it. But extension, I just don't know enough about extension development. I'm sure there are some mechanisms for automating the testing.
I see.
All right, so unless I'm missing anything, I think we have done questions from the slide. Or is there anything else people would like to discuss? Oh, I just have a new one. Any thoughts on Codex plan skill? I am having this skill create code plans in better due to yeah, so I don't know the specific skill. I also do it quite a lot, planning with GPT 5.2 codex with extra I. It is really good. It is definitely much better than Claude Opus for this very thorough work you might want to do when planning. So I can only recommend it depending on what tool you use. If you're using Claude Code, you can use a skill or something like this to invoke codex. If you're using an agent that supports both, so for example, like OpenCode, which we'll look at shortly, or Copilot with Visual Studio Code, you can just switch between the models. And it's a good trade-off, right? Because GPT 5.2 is really slow and it can be a bit frustrating for interactive programming, but it is more thorough and wants to be better at kind of very complex analysis and planning. So maybe doing one pass with GPT 5.2 to get a really solid plan and then executing this plan with a model that's faster, like one of the Claude models or something like this, it makes a lot of sense. Yes, Denise.
Yeah, same thing. This Claude code, I kind of copied that sort of a skill in my Claude code flow. I installed that skill, but somehow Opus was running into with Opus and it says like having some network connectivity issue with Claude and then generates the plan of its own. So yeah, I'm working through it, but as you kind of also acknowledge that creating a plan with Codex is better and having that plan to be executed by Opus might give us a little more edge in that. Is that what I heard, right?
I think so. In fact, I've done it many times successfully, not with Opus, but with much simpler models. So like creating a plan with codecs extra high, and then executing with Claude Cycle or with Gemini Free Flash, which are really cheap and really fast. And if they really have good instructions on exactly what to do, often they'll get you pretty good results. Because Opus is really strong when it needs to improvise, right? That's just for Claude in general, and of Claude Opus especially. It will somehow find a solution, doesn't matter how messy the situation is. But if the situation isn't messy and you have a really clear step-by-step plan, you can even use a simpler model and it works. We have more people joining, that's great. What do I think about the statement in Claude's new constitution? Is it like a specific statement or just the constitution in general? I don't know. It's very interesting. I'm always a little bit suspicious. Anthropic have a tendency to do a lot of PR that is a bit weird around these things, Claude's personality, Claude's constitution. Let's not forget they're primarily developing a machine learning model that's not really a person and doesn't really have a personality and doesn't consistently obey a constitution. But I think it's always two things. One is that they have an interesting approach to how they control some of the behavior of the model, which they have been very vocal about right from the beginning. And the second, that they know something about us, their customers, that we are quite sensitive to this kind of communication, and that while other labs are a lot more technocratic, right? You will not hear from Google or from OpenAI since like our model's personality or we're giving it the constitution. They'll usually talk about it in that are more dry and matter of fact. I think Anthropic realized that there is value in connecting with the public at large by communicating about these aspects. And I believe them that they really do use the Constitution document for reinforcement learning. So it's interesting. I don't know if it matters so much. Clearly, if you've used models from other companies like Google or OpenAI or any of the others, they don't have a constitution. They also seem to be very good. So I'm not sure if it's that important, but what do I know? And I don't really, am I missing interesting thing in the chat? Anna Marina is a cancer on AI. That's very strong language. I don't think it's cancer. It's useful. All benchmarks, all measurements are a bit problematic. You should mostly rely on your own judgment, but definitely of everything we have available, Anna Marina is quite good. Some people give Claude full privileges in a machine. Yeah, like me, I do. It's fine. I haven't had any problems. I don't know if I can recommend it to everyone. It's not sure that it's a responsible thing to do because there could be some risks, but with the latest versions of the different models like Claude 4.5 or Gemini GPT-5, they're quite well behaved and I haven't had situations where they deleted my stuff or uploaded my secret information. But obviously that's I'm taking responsibility only for myself. Not sure I would do it in a, let's say, more commercial setting if I'm doing work for a client or in an enterprise setting. I don't think that I'm taking too much risk, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to anyone unless you have some way of developing confidence around it. Nick is asking, how do we see the recording? I'll send the recording tomorrow, hopefully, if I manage to get an edit of it to clear it up a little bit, and if not, maybe on Tuesday. But I always send the recording in the week following. All right. Any more questions? Anything spontaneously that you'd like to ask or share? If not, we can move to the demo part. Let's do the demos. Now I want to talk about OpenCode. I'm really excited about OpenCode, and I'm using it increasingly myself. It's, I would say, the most credible open source answer to Claude Code right now. There are, of course, many different agents. They're all good. I don't think this needs to over-index on Claude or any other agent. We use GitHub Copilot quite a lot, which is also very good and is also open source, at least the Visual Studio Code version. But OpenCode, somehow, I think it is growing right now and it's worth paying attention to. And it's at OpenCode.ly. Again, it's open source, it's free, you can download it. It has many nice versions. And one of the things that's distinct about it is that it is beautiful. So let me get it started so that you'll see. Definitely all the different agents that are available in the terminal, I think no competition, and it gives Claude Code a run for its money. The other thing that is worth noticing is that you can really connect it to anything. It will support, for example, here I'll show you the model it's available. So I have my GitHub Copilot subscription connected to it. That's official, by the way, officially supported. So I'm not doing anything against the terms of service or something like this. They have endorsed OpenCode, which is great. Since I have many different models, like the Claude models and some free models like GPT 4.1 and 5 mini, which I'm together with my subscription and not paying for any requests. And those are nice models for simple things. And of course, GPT 5.2 Codex and then Gemini 3 models, which are good. I'm also using quite a lot now, actually, the GLM 4.7 model. It's an open model from Zippo, from Z.ai. I'm using it from OpenCode's own Zen provider, where they have an optimized version of this model running in the United States. But there are many other. You can connect it to anything you want. You can connect it to your OpenAI subscription and use Codex. You can connect it to OpenRouter and use one of many different models. You can connect it to all the AMIs. You have a massive machine and you're running the models locally. So lots and lots of different options, which is nice as an opportunity to, if you like, trying out different models. Other than that, it has all the features you've come to expect. It has different agents, so a planning agent and a build agent, and you can also create sub-agent. It supports skills. You can ask skills, do you have that? And you'll see it loading all of my skills that I have also for.
Eleanor, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I think we are only seeing your browser, not sure if
Really?
it shows first.
Okay, thanks for telling me. I'm sorry for that. Now I want an entire screen. That's the big. Let me see. Now, are you seeing my OpenCode now? No.
You see the command prompt.
Yes, but not the right one. Yeah, it is linked. Hopefully now. Thank you so much for telling me. Sorry, I was zapping a lot, but you didn't miss much. I launched OpenCode. I can do it again so that you see how beautiful it is. Oh, this is OpenCode. These are the different models I have from GitHub Copilot and from OpenCode Zen. and I last asked what skills do you have available, just to see that it supports the same skills as Claude Code. And also that the GM train model is really fast. It's nice. It's not quite as strong as, let's say, Claude Opus, but it's probably about as strong as Claude Sonnet and really fast.
Eleanor,
So,
just curious.
yeah.
Sorry, really quick question. Do you pay for OpenCode Zen or are you on the free plan?
No, I am paying for it, but it's very cheap. It costs probably like a fifth of what you'd pay for Claude. So
Got it.
I'm happy to use it today. But I don't have this. They have now this black subscription where you get all inclusive. I don't have that yet. I'm on the waiting list, but I probably will use it because I like sometimes playing with all these different models. You asked a little bit about workflows that I'm using, and so here's one. I say I'm in a to do the rush directory with nothing, and I'm going to work on a project here. I say here be git because, and I have a skill here be git. I want to initialize the git repository and some basic agent instructions. Ask me, would you like me to add instructions for the agent to always commit? Yes, please. You can hear me well. So it creates an agents.md for me. Would you like to git ignore? Yes, we ignore or TypeScript. So here's, for example, a workflow that I do probably a few times every day just to start a repository. And it is encapsulated in a skill that just explains the workflow and the different options. And it could ask me about what I want to git ignore and so on. So here's one such example. Let's try something. Let's try like an agentic task and see how it goes. And then I'll show you some other things. So what you thought of doing is, or maybe I'll use indeed the GPT 5.2 Codex model in extra high to do some planning. And what I like to do is,
Your screen
Yeah.
is not shared with this intention.
again, I'm sorry about that. Thank you. Can you see it now?
Yes.
So I'm starting a planning session with GPT 5.2 Codex extra high, or it my GitHub Copilot subscription in OpenCode. And I want to build like a simple agent. Let's do something like this. I want to build a simple agent named AI SDK. And then TypeScript. The agent should fetch the top 3 items from I can use, summarize each, and create summary.md with the title, URL, and summary of each. So it's been 3 items. The agent should use Gemini 3/preview with the key and the argument variable Gemini API key, which I have in the environment. And start by researching and creating a plan and framework plan.md for me to review on in when I get it. Let's see how it works. I'll send it. It will take a while, so we can look at some other things meanwhile.
Eleanor, is there a way to trigger plan mode in OpenCode? Like Claude Code has a plan mode, and Cursor has a plan mode. Is there a way to trigger that in OpenCode?
Yeah, so you switch between plan mode and build mode.
Got it.
I
We did-
never used plan mode. For some reason, I don't find it useful. I think I can just tell the agent write a plan. But if you like this sort of workflow, yes, you have a plan agent.
Got it. So basically, you describing it and saying just plan it out and put it in plan.md. That is superior in your mind compared to plan mode and open.
I don't know if it's superior. I just know that this is what we do. I think plan mode was interesting in the past because models were not well behaved enough, good enough in following instructions to not make any changes and only plan. And so plan mode doesn't have the ability to write anything, right? There are your reads and clones. I don't think this is a problem anymore. And so I never bother because maybe I don't know, I just don't find that they need to. I just tell it, plan and write the plan to mark themselves or something like this. But both approaches are valid.
Got it. Thank you so much.
And as you can see, it picked up all sorts of skills I have, like the AI SDK to help it understand how to write agents with AI SDK and Context 7 and Avili and whatnot, all the good stuff. So it's doing definitely serious, thorough work here. Anyway, let's allow it to run for a bit and look at some other stuff that might be interesting while we're at it. So one of the cool things about OpenCode is that it's also a web server. And so here you can see an OpenCode that I've installed for myself. It's my private cloud-based OpenCode instance that is nice. Actually, I got frustrated. There was one day when Claude had an outage. I was like, I don't have a backup, so I should have my own version. And so we just installed it in a Docker container in Railway. It was super easy to deploy. Oh, did we again lose the screen? So I have here my own little web cloud-based agent, completely self-hosted. Well, the model isn't self-hosted, but the agent itself is. So we could ask, and you can see that the UI of this web version is also really nice. So maybe I'm meaning about Agentic functions under and library. Let's see if the tools figure this out. So very elegant UI, at least in my opinion. It knows what to do in the website. Okay, it comes some information and wrote nice sentences for us. Looks accurate, has a link. Very cool. And it is incredibly fast with the GLM 4.7 model really becoming my favorite, definitely among the open models. Let's see how our planning is going on here. Oh, okay, it created a plan.md. Now we can read it briefly. Really simple dive now. Okay, this looks reasonable to me. And so I will go here and maybe I can even switch model to GLM. See if we can get it working fast. And let's go. and can implement line bottom D. Make sure to test the resulting scripts and debug and fix them. Here it is working. Okay, let's allow it to run. And again, all of these things you probably have seen before in other agents, like a to-do list and the ability to run bash commands, just looking really nice, I think. One last thing I wanted to show you is the OpenCode desktop app, which I think is wonderful. This is the desktop app. Oh, there's a new version. They released, by the way, that's so definitely proactive. The OpenCode team, you release like a new version 2 or 3 times a day, which is probably why they're doing so well and making such fast progress. But
Sorry, what was if this is the desktop app, what was the one before that we were looking at behind this?
it was before this, that's the terminal. So they have an amazingly good looking terminal version, but this is just a terminal.
Got it. Okay.
Um,
Ghosty, I thought I saw. Never mind. Thank you.
So yeah, it is the desktop app. It has like can switch between different projects and different sessions, and it's like now thinking normal setting windows, all the kind of stuff you like to have in a desktop app. It has a built-in terminal if you need like just a little bit of terminal quickly, and you can have also this window for code reviews. So if it produces new code or new code changes, you can review them in a very nice diff view. I like it. I think it's great. Definitely of all the different desktop apps for agents is the nicest one in my opinion. And like the rest of OpenCode, I have access to all these different models and to many more I could connect to. So you can, where is it? You can connect to a provider. Maybe I'm missing something now, but maybe when you configure, or you can see you have all these different options and you can connect to many different providers. And that's great. And we lost a window again. This is very frustrating. So this was, and I can then it was support things like, I don't know, sub-agents. So I can do something like, select 3 sub-agents in parallel in eventually then, the Lauren Epson scale to produce 3 paragraphs of placeholder text. Finally, show me all 3 results. And again, it looks very nice. It knows how to use skills. It knows how to use parallel background agents, which I'm doing a lot with this now to parallelize things. You can always like expand what it does to see the individual to do of each of them and look at the output of everything. And it's showing me the results. So really nice desktop app. And there are many themes and colors. You can configure it endlessly to fit your taste. I really like it. Let's go and see. Okay, so it built something for us. I will do one run agent and see if it did something useful. It did. It built an agent for us that is looking quite good. It's summarizing, and it wrote summary.md. So, nice little example with use the terminal app. It looked so good, and it worked with different models. So we used the GPT 5.2 codecs with extra high thinking to do a nice plan. We then used the very fast, very cheap model GLM 4.7 to execute the plan and coded a simple agent from scratch. We saw that it's quite easy to deploy OpenCode as a web server, which I'm taking advantage of. You can also do locally. And we looked at the desktop app, which I think is wonderful. Really recommend taking a look at OpenCode. First of all, I think it's a great alternative to some of the commercial tools out there. I know that a lot of people are crazy about cold code, and it is indeed good. But OpenCode is a very good option too, and they have lawless feature parity. And the advantage that you have this great choice of different models. And also that you can use it in all these different forms. If you like a desktop app, you can use the desktop app. If you like working from the terminal, it also is really nice looking and very user friendly. So yeah, Kunal.
Thanks, Eleanor. This demo is awesome. Just curious, have you used OpenCode for like agentic coding or Ralph Wiggum or something like that, like kicking off multiple different workers for coding for you? Just curious.
Yeah, you can, if you have some setup like Vibe Kanban or something like this, you can also drive OpenCode and parallel agents. It works just as well as any of the other terminal-based agents for this.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And Roger, yes,
Hi there. Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, perfect. But thanks for sharing that. I wasn't aware with OpenCode that you could have a server on a web-based browser. That started making me think it's this really interesting YouTube video about Brian Cherney's setup, the creator of Claude, how he uses Claude, and apparently he creates 3 different windows of the CLI and names them 1 to 5, and then has the Claude AI web browser, and then can use background tasks to asynchronously have things running in parallel in the background. Can you do this in OpenCode? Can you have background tasks and use the server API to kind of keep track of the background tasks, if that makes sense? Is that possible?
Yeah, yes, you can, but they don't have a web service like Code Web or Codex Cloud or the GitHub Copilot. So you'd have to orchestrate it yourself, which I'm not sure if it's worth the effort. So you could run a server, and I could, for example, connect to my server running currently just a single instance of OpenCode from the desktop app or from the terminal locally. But because they don't have sort of a cloud-based agent service, you would need to manage it yourself. So that seems a bit pointless. So maybe that's something where they still have a new product to build after they make more progress on the terminal and desktop version.
Yeah. That's great. I think it's nice and happy to lock it. We thought brilliant. But like you said, it's always nice to have a fallback or something else. And it'd just be nice to see some of these features. Like I really like the ability to background that's all working and like multiple things going up at the same time. So it'd be nice to see that for other platforms as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely encouraging that we have not just an open and flexible tool, but one that is also so polished and that is moving so fast and is so flexible. So that's why I'm so excited. Why I wanted to share this with you today.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Any other thoughts on OpenCode or anything at all? Going
So
once?
So,
Yeah.
so with the background task in OpenCode, if you can do that, is there the concept of teleporting as well? Or is it not part of the OpenCode platform or ecosystem at the moment, where you've got like a background session and then you can then bring that into the terminal, like you can do with Claude Code?
Again, they don't have so unlike Claude where they have Claude Code Web. OpenCode doesn't have an equivalent service. So you can run it is kind of client service. So for example, I've demonstrated how I'm running it on my own web server. And I suppose I could like copy over the session to my local terminal. But you don't have all the orchestration around it that you get with Claude or with GitHub Copilot. Maybe that's something that I don't know how if it's something that people are using a lot. I've never used this stuff actually, but I guess if there is a lot of interest, it will emerge eventually because it's now a very high profile open source project and also a company that's well funded and developing very quickly. So what I can recommend if you're really interested in this is jumping into the Discord server of OpenCode, and you can chat with people and see where things are going. If there is something like this already on the roadmap, pretty sure you're not the first one in the community of millions of people now using it that may be interested in something like this.
Yeah, I'll definitely do. Thank you.
Nick is saying that OpenCode not available to use on WSL. So you can use big file. It's been a while since I used and then open Vercel or Windows, but you can use the terminal version, not the desktop app yet. Is this what you're saying?
Hi, Eleanor. This is Nick. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on Windows in a WSL environment, you can use OpenCode as a command line tool. It works great there, but their desktop app does not operate in WSL as it would, say, if you were using it inside of VS Code. So just a small workflow challenge there for anybody using Windows.
It is not in VS Code. So what you can do, so the desktop app is just a shell around the web app. So if you are able to use OpenCode in the terminal, it means it's running the OpenCode server and you can connect to it with your web browser. It sounds like maybe just the desktop app itself with the icon and the shell around it isn't available yet. But
Can you would you be willing to show us how to do that? So you're saying running the CLI, you can use the web as a view into the CLI. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I am.
It'd be great if you could show that. I'm not seeing your screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how exactly I'm about it. Where do I get the But that's basically what you've seen earlier when I showed it. I deployed it. I just don't remember exactly like which part it was, or and I'm trying to figure it out now. What? Have to go to do some research and get back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Eleanor. Really appreciate it.
But basically, yeah, we can. What I'll do is when I kind of send a follow up, I'll send some specific information about this. But essentially, if you are able to run the thing in the terminal, you can connect to it with a web server. You just need to figure out exactly which where it's running, and that and
Yeah,
well,
yeah, that's the thing that's a mystery to me.
yeah.
Boy, if they built that into OpenCode terminal, you just click on a link and see it in the web. That would be a nice feature for them to add.
I mean, I'm sure what you can do, so we can just start now. One, if we do here, and let me share my screen. I'll go here back to the terminal, but I'll close this one, and then I'll say OpenCode browse, and I'm saying minus root. Let's try something like this. Failed. Why is that?
I think, yeah, you need to share your screen.
Yes, just a moment. Anyway, allow me to follow up on that because I don't want to keep everyone waiting with while I'm being researched. But again, and exactly as I did it in my hosted server, you can do it locally. You just need to find a convenient way to launch it, and I'll get back to you on this.
Thanks, Eleanor.
All right. Any other or anything else in the chat? When I use it on Railway where Filesystems, I just have amount with a place to save things like the sessions of the agent and the login. So it just looks like you are running locally. I think, yeah, and here's the link to the Discord. Yeah, it's definitely a very nice, active community. So I hope this was sort of interesting and maybe got your interest going in OpenCode. I really think it's worth exploring. It's a beautiful project. It looks beautiful. It's a beautiful community. And I think it's on the rise. So it will be worth knowing it in the future, even if it's not yet your primary agent. It is online. I use Visual Studio and I use Cloud Code quite a lot, but increasingly anyway, so going to OpenCode. Anything else anyone would like to discuss? Any thoughts, requests? If not, then thank you very, very much. We'll be here in 2 weeks with another Sunday school. There is, so last week I had the first instance of the Mastering Agent Skills workshop. I don't want to talk about it in length because I know I don't want to do too much advertising for a paid thing, but I thought it was really, really fun and there was great feedback and now a lot of demand for another one. So there's another one in the middle of February if you're interested, and I'm pretty sure there will be others scheduled based on how quickly tickets are going. And yeah, hope to see you next Sunday school or one of these workshops. And thank you so much for joining.